Branding is no doubt one of the most profitable services for graphic designers in 2025. Not only do thousands of businesses rebrand every year, or should I say tens of thousands, but more importantly, it is the one service that allows you to deliver real, measurable value to clients, and I'm here to explain to you how you can get in on all of the fun. With more money piling into branding every single day, you are honestly doing yourself a disservice if you don't learn how to brand. Because at this point, whether or not you think that branding is for you, it's a highly demanded service and can be the difference of you being a successful graphic designer or a struggling one. So whether or not you're a complete beginner or super deep in design, by the end of this video you're going to know every single step required to start making money with branding. With that being said, we have no time to waste. Let's get into exactly what you're going to learn in this video. And by the way guys, if you already know some of this stuff, feel free to just mouse over the bottom of the video and skip to the parts that best serve you. Anyways, first in this video you're going to learn what branding is and why businesses want it. Second, you're going to get walked through the process of branding projects. Third, you're going to see exactly how I do it for a real client. 4, you're going to get some basic rules of thumb that I always follow when designing to make sure that your work is up to studio standards. 5th, we're going to talk about how you can actually get clients with zero marketing costs. And 6th, we're going to talk about how you can steal the exact templates that I use and save the hundreds of hours of trial and error that have led me to this exact point. This is going to be the most detailed branding guide on YouTube, showing you every single step from A to Z, exactly how to go through this process. So for part 1, let's talk about what branding is and why there is such a demand for it. Now, if you aren't familiar with the term branding, let me just give you a simple breakdown, right? Branding isn't whatever you think just looks cool created as a logo, followed by a font you like. No, the best definition of branding that I've ever heard was by Marty Numier, who says that branding is a customer's gut feeling about a product, service, or company. So how do we visualize this? Well, if each person is going to perceive a brand differently, it's our jobs as brand designers to ensure that we've done a good enough job designing the brand to be perceived as intended, which means that we aren't just graphic designing. We're creating a strategy as a foundation, allowing us the opportunity to ensure that every design decision has been intentional. So this is how I visualize branding. And don't worry if it looks overwhelming to start, we are going to go through everything in detail from start to finish. All that I ask in return is that you drop a comment if this does help you, so I know to make more videos like this in the future. Already, I hope you can start to see why branding is worth so much more than other graphic design services, because it's not just a one and done job, it is the foundation of a business's identity and success. Okay, so now we're going to talk about my exact branding process when working with clients. And I definitely recommend you to build some sort of client portal, whether that's a Trello process, a Notion process, or if you would like, you can do it back and forth on emails. But I have found that this Notion template has been ultimately the decider for many different branding projects now, because the client can see exactly where the project's up to. They can leave feedback in here, they can download their own files on here, they can pay invoices. It's genuinely got it all. So I'm going to walk through now from left to right exactly how it works, so you'll be able to see a bit more of my process and how I work with clients. So this is the client portal template, which you'll be able to find on my shop in the link in the description. And ultimately it's split out into 5 different stages. So we've got the onboarding stage, we've got the brand strategy stage, we've got the pre-design and direction, brand identity, and next steps. So we're going to walk you through from start to finish exactly how I use it and why I use it. First, you'll see we've got the project discovery call ticked, and that's because usually I send this over to the client after the discovery call. What do I do on my discovery calls? I try and get the client to sign the contract there and then, or at least agree to the branding project. I'm going to quickly take you through the process that allows people to book the calls with me. So you'll see we've got my Instagram here, maybe a potential client's viewed one of my videos, clicked on my profile, click the link in my bio, and they've clicked book a 15-minute call. Now the reason for the Calendly is 1, to save myself admin time on emails, but also to try and qualify prospects without having to speak to them. So you'll see initially we've got name, email. Are you seeking a rebrand or initial branding for your business? You'll see we've got different pricing options with 5K, 10K, 15K. This way I can already start to gauge how much somebody's willing to spend on the project. Briefly describe your business and the branding services you're looking for, e.g. complete brand identity, animations, etc. And then you'll see they've also got a section which is where do you hear about us. So now once the person's booked in that call, on the call I'm going to ask them about the goals goals, the vision for the brand, who's the target audience, why did they actually want to rebrand in the first place. And then I'm going to say to the client what the investment's going to be, the timeline, and then also I'm going to handle any objections and try and get them to sign the contract on the call. You find that if somebody does sign the contract on the call, they're most likely going to be a dream client to work with. Low revisions, pretty chilled guys or girls, and you also find that these sort of people give you a lot of creative freedom as well. Now, you won't always be able to get somebody to agree on the call to sign the contract, which is where I then go and create a brand proposal. So I've got an example of a proposal here that I recently sent out. You'll see that I start with a little about me section. I've got some pictures here from when I did a talk with Adobe. Briefly mention who we are, talk about the design agency, what we do, what makes us different to everybody else, our approach when we work with businesses, our promise, and then I jump into pieces of our work, also with 2 case studies. After that, we've got some testimonials, how we can specifically help the client with 6 different goals that I've picked out from the call that we've had with them. Now, for the pricing structure, I usually do list 3 different prices. However, this client was pretty clear on they only wanted a basic brand identity, so I didn't add a third option. I did add another one in case I could change their mind on the proposal, but they did in fact go for the first one. The reason why I usually offer 3 prices is to ultimately anchor the initial price. It makes the first option look a lot cheaper. And also, if somebody does decide to go with the third option, then you're going to be happy because it's going to be a big payday. Finally, I finish on a nice little goodbye note, trying to personalize this as much as possible. I got this from one of Frankie Harris' videos that he made. Really just bringing things down to more of a casual level and showing that we've really listened to them on the call. So hopefully by now the client's reviewed the proposal and decided to go and work with you. I would then accept a 50% deposit up front, and then I'd ask them to complete the client questionnaire, which is in the brand strategy section. Initially, there are 10 questions that aren't specifically tailored to the business, but I'll show you an example here for Sosa. What I do like to do, this was a wildlife conservation brand that I recently completed. You can see I do try and dive into more detail where necessary. Depending on how much I already know about the business, really depends on how many more questions I need to ask them. Now, with wildlife conservation not being one of my strongest subjects, I can't lie, I did have to ask a lot more questions to really understand who these people are that are going on these experiences, any competitors that there may be, how do they want their audience to feel when they come on these experiences, and also digging into a bit more of the story on why they actually created this brand in the first place. So the more story you can tell within a brand identity, the more powerful it is. So once the client's filled this out, I then go and create a brand strategy document. And you might have seen me talk about this previously on my YouTube. It's essentially a 40-page document formalizing a strategy which we can constantly refer to whilst designing to make sure that each of our design decisions are intentional. Since transitioning from a freelancer to starting my own agency, I found this document to be really, really helpful when working with other designers, because rather than me having to brief them on everything, I can just send over this strategy document which they can refer to at all points whenever they might be making additional logo marks or merchandise designs, pretty much anything that I'd hire more designers for. A quick example of my brand strategy template, which will also be in the Ultimate Template bundle in the link in the description. We start with a welcome, followed by an introduction, talk a little bit about the history, and then we dive into the brand mission and brand vision. If a client doesn't already have one of these, this is where I will go away, essentially curate one to then propose to them. You'll find that usually when you do propose a mission and a vision to a client, they'll probably want to tweak it slightly, because at the end of the day, you don't know why they created that business, and you don't necessarily always know exactly why they do things on a day-to-day basis. But again, the more that we ask in the client questionnaire, the more that we can actually curate a strategy that's actually aligned with the client. So then we've got Unspoken Truth, which is arguably one of my favorite pages in the brand strategy document. I find that this really helps strengthen the messaging of the brand. For example, I recently worked on a brand identity called For Hair. They were targeting young, motivated males. The unspoken truth that I unlocked was that the reason that we look after our hair isn't for the aesthetic, it's actually to try and preserve our youth. And when we start speaking that out loud in our messaging, and when people start realizing that, oh yeah, that is actually why we do it, ultimately strengthens that connection with the brand. Then we jump into brand values. I try and keep this down to 3. I don't really like to go more than that, because I find the more brand values that you have, the harder it is to directly tie decisions to, because obviously there is so many values that you could have. I try and choose the 3 values that we prioritize the most. Brand story, essentially digging into why the client created the brand in the first place. Audience persona, I like to audit the audience, find out what they like, the motivations, interests, habits, backgrounds. This way we can really start to create an identity that does appeal to their audience. You'll see here I also like to try and pinpoint 3 specific people. This way, when we're actually creating messaging for any digital assets or anything like that, we can really try and create the messaging as if we're directly speaking to one of these people. So then we've got competition. I usually ask the client, who are the main competitors? I like to note down what's good about them and also the weaknesses and how we can have that edge over these competitors. You might think this is over the top, but honestly, there are too many directions you can go down when creating the brand identity. I always find that the more detailed the strategy is, the easier it actually is to create the visual identity. Then we've got the brand messaging. This is where the previous auditing of the audience is really essential. Case by case basis, this changes. For example, with the wildlife conservation brand that I recently did, it was more of an empowering tone of voice that we did. Then we've got the problem, essentially talking into what problem does the business solve. And then lastly, we've got the tone of voice. We dive into this a bit more in detail during the brand guidelines. This is initially picking 3 different styles that we try and prioritize. And then in the brand guidelines, I'll actually go away and show examples of what to do and what not to do when creating messaging. Okay, so now we're nearly ready to create the visual identity. First, to make sure that we are completely aligned with the client, I like to create mood boards. Usually I create 2 mood boards because the more mood boards I make, I find the harder it is to tell the same story. The way that I try and create my mood boards is by prioritizing different parts of the brand strategy, but still telling that same story that the brand should tell. If that doesn't make any sense, we're gonna walk through a real mood board later. And then we're gonna jump into the fun stuff. Once the client's agreed on the mood board direction, we can then build out the visual identity. Now the visual identity, minimum deliverables I usually include logo variations, aka a logo suite, typography selections, color palettes, brand pattern, potentially brand illustrations as well, depending on the brand, iconography, and then I also include 3 brand assets, which could be email footers, posters, social media templates. And then once we've created all of the deliverables, we then package it within a brand presentation. This is different to the brand guidelines. This is a presentation showing the why behind every design decision that we've made, whereas the brand guidelines is for other people that may be using the brand, which is a detailed how-to guide on how to use the brand. Just before we finish the projects, we don't just leave it at delivering the brand guidelines. I also have a feedback and review section and then an offboarding document as well. We start by just thanking the client for the time and being able to actually work on this project with them. I then go in to offer some retainer services that they might be interested in. Just a little note there to say that we'll check in with the client 3 months in just to see how they're getting on, how they're using the identity, if they've got any questions at all. You'll find that the more energy you put into your client after the project's completed, the more likely they are to refer you to somebody else. And we know that referrals are the best way to get business. And then again, finally, just asking for them to leave a testimonial. And if they were really happy with it, try and leave a video testimonial as well. Find that if somebody's paying you 5,000, 10,000 for a brand identity and then leaving you a video testimonial, that's a really good sign that you're doing a really good job with your work. And then finally, just showing that we do give a referral bonus if they do refer us to somebody else. So now if you do have any more questions regarding the process, we're about to create a real brand identity for a real client. Okay, so about a month ago, I received an exciting inquiry for a brand identity from a barber called Jude. He wants to release a curling cream and the name's called Smash. Now, he knows his target audience will be young, motivated males, and he also wants to incorporate an energetic bright green into the identity. So here we've got a website that's supposedly a competitor of Jude's, or will be a competitor, and the first one's Slick Gorilla. Just taking a look at this now, you can see there's a lot of character into the brand. He says that the target audiences are the same here for both of these competitor examples. There's not much colour going on, there really isn't, but the illustration does take it away. We've seen a lot of bold typography. And again, these are the sort of products that Jude says he wants to be selling. Not necessarily the female products, but more the barber curling creams. See a few different fonts being used here, which I'm not sure I like, but I do like the gorilla. So let's take a look at the other one. The other one is called Rascals, and again, this is from another barber who's created his own product. First impressions, I like the design. Very bright, stands out. They'll look nicely together on the shelf, and this is exactly the product that he wants to be selling, the styling clay. They've gone for a really nice layout here with some minimalist typography. They've got the icon, which is the smiley face with the crossed out eyes. I definitely think that we can have the edge here. Neither of them really stand out to me too much. So with that being said, let's think about how we can start to create the brand Smash. Okay, so we need to create the strategy first. Now, we know that it's going to be targeting young, motivated males from the UK. We know we want a bright, vibrant identity. We want the messaging to come across as really no BS, straightforward, motivating language. To motivate young men to enhance the style, that could be the mission. And for the vision, we really want to go for a broader goal here. So I'm thinking to inspire a world where young adults own their look. This is just a really basic draft. We're going to tweak these later when building the strategy, but this is sort of the direction that I want to go down. Really trying to motivate young males, no BS language, really sort of fighter talk, inspiring. Typography wise, we want this to be really bold. In terms of the colour palette, if we're going for a Vault green, then I probably want to stick to an entirely green palette. I don't think incorporating too many colours would work if we want to primarily focus on this electric green. If we do want to really stand out to the younger audience, maybe we could make tweaks on certain letters, like for example, exclamation marks could be lightning bolts. Speech marks could also be lightning bolts. That would look pretty cool. If we were to own in on certain values, again, I really think we need to go down the bold, vibrant route. Okay, so I've gone away and refined the strategy. I've now landed on what I believe to be the most important parts of the strategy, which is vision, mission, unspoken truth, brand values, and tone of voice. So for the mission, which is what we stand for, I've said to redefine style for those who don't follow, they lead. Really narrowing down the individual here. The vision, which is the big goal, is to set the standard for fearless style, inspiring a generation to lead with confidence. And then we've got the unspoken truth, which is really going to lead the messaging, and that is that hair care isn't about just looking good, it's about making a statement. You can start to see here exactly who we are targeting, those cocky, young, motivated males that think the world revolves around them. That's really who we want to target here in all of our messaging. So for the values, we've gone for motivation, leadership, and innovation. And then for the tone of voice, we've finished it off with bold, energetic, and unapologetic. So with that in mind, we've got all the information now that we need to go away and pull together inspiration for a mood board. So the sites that I like to use the most, you can't go wrong with Pinterest and Behance, I always say. I always like to start first in Pinterest because I feel like you can be a lot more easy with the prompts that you type into the search bar. And I'm going to start by looking for some bold typography first. Okay, so we're going to have a scroll through here and see if anything stands out to us straight away. We don't want something round. We don't want it too big. We want it bold enough to make a statement and grab your attention whilst being sharp. I think that having a sharp typography is really important for this brand. I do like this typography here. I think we're going to save that down. We're going to create a new mood board for this brand. And I'm going to pull together 5 or 6 examples. Again, this example here with the green is really good. There's also another one below it, which I quite like as well. So we're going to add that to the mood board. Okay, what's going to come up if we type in vibrant identity? Again, I'm liking the way that this text goes with the bright colours. We'll save that down. This looks a bit too playful for our liking. I don't like that. I do like this green though, and I also like the font as well, so we'll save that. We've really got to start thinking exactly what green we want to use, which you wouldn't think is important, but it definitely is. It's like this green is too pale for us, even though it is bright. We want something a lot more electric than that. Again, I do like this font. I'm sure we won't have a problem finding a font that suits the brand. So we're going to start searching for something else. Let's have a look at some hair product packaging inspiration. Okay, so this is very bold and bright. We're going to save that for inspiration. I do like the style of this. I like how it's got the yellow strip at the bottom. I could imagine having a black packaging with a green stripe at the bottom, or alternatively the other colours the other way around. We'll save that down. The minimalist layouts I do like, but I do think we need to maybe just lead with a bold typography for the word mark. Another thing I'm thinking as well is that I think that the focal point of the brand's probably going to be the word mark. We're not really so fussed about a logo mark for this brand. Brand recognition is going to be key for this, and I think if we have a logo that's completely separate to a unique word mark, then there's just going to be too many things for people to remember the brand by. So I do think focusing on a word mark, similar to this here, like you find with a lot of skincare products and a lot of hair care products that don't necessarily have memorable logos, but they do have memorable word marks. So we're just going to save that down. See what Jude thinks about that. I really like how the cream tub has been designed here. We could definitely do something like that rather than just having it all the same colour. So we'll save that down. I think it's best that I go away, complete the mood board, pull it together using one of the templates that I've created that are part of the Ultimate Template Bundle, and then I'll show you what we've got up to. Right, I'm going to show you how easy it is now to create a mood board with my Ultimate Template Bundle. Essentially, if you don't already know what my Ultimate Template Bundle is everything we looked at in the Notion template from left to right, but categorized into pre-made templates that I've created. So by heading into strategy and then going into mood board direction, you'll see there's a mood board Adobe Illustrator file. I should be doing this in InDesign, however, I'm just too familiar with Adobe Illustrator now. It saves me so much time creating them in there, so all of my presentations are on Adobe Illustrator. And you'll see we have this really easy to edit template. We don't necessarily need to change the colors or the typography because we are still in the planning stage of the design. I start by giving the client a brief introduction on what they're about to expect in this document, followed by a contents page. And then we've got direction 1 and direction 2. We have an overview describing the direction, and then we also have a visual overview which shows all the inspiration that we've pulled together from Pinterest. So if we go to Pinterest now on our computer, because we've saved that board down, all we need to do is copy and paste it and just drag them into the boxes that I've preset. We've got logo examples. We're going to change the icon and illustration to packaging examples. We're going to copy this over, and I've just seen another one that I like the look of as well over there. So we're also going to steal these two. I really do like this box. I think that we can create a box similar but more of a vibrant version. I like how the word mark is on the side. I feel like that we could do that as well, but there's also an image here that I'd like to bring over. In terms of the color example, I'm going to copy this one across. I feel like this green is definitely the direction that we want to go. Works really well with the black as well. Typography examples, we're going to bring this in. We're also going to bring in this green as well, which goes in both of them, to be honest. It's definitely the sort of green that we want, and also the typography that we could potentially consider. It's a bit longer than the other one, but again, either of them I do like the look of. And then this is almost in between them both. It's not too thick, it's not too thin. It's a good balance of both of the examples. So we're going to put them all into there anyway. And then I really like the way that they've manipulated this typography as well for posters, so we're going to bring that in there into the others section. I'm going to go away and refine this mood board and also create the strategy document in line with the strategy that we've built on paper. And then hopefully we can get this signed off on a pre-design and direction call. Okay, what's the news? Well, the client has actually approved the strategy and also the mood board direction. Now, I spoke through exactly how I envisioned the brand being myself. I told him about the word mark being the main focal point rather than the logo, and he was all for it. He did say he would like to incorporate some form of negative space in the word mark, which could also be used as the logo, which I completely agree with. So we're about to do the fun stuff. We need to now try and develop the identity, and I find the best place to start it is with a pencil and a paper. Sorry, my email is going off there. Now, I had an idea last night to try and manipulate the typography in a way to incorporate a smash icon into the logo. So for a smash icon, I'm thinking something like this. Something that really does show like a bang, as if it's out of a comic book. But I'm torn between how I can actually start to incorporate this in. I'm going to also experiment with some other stuff. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be a smash icon. That's the obvious play. And a lot of the times the obvious play is wrong unless done correctly. He was keen on the taller, narrower fonts. We're working with the letters S, M, E, A, S, H. And if you're wondering why there is an E here, it's because when he used to make videos back in the day, cutting hair, they'd always finish it with smash, said like that. So he wants to incorporate that into his brand as well, tell a bit of story behind it, which is why we've gone for smash with an E. Now, these aren't the best letters to work with when working with negative space, but I'm sure we can do something. There's 6 letters. I'm trying to think of the geometry of the letters here. So we've got an S that curves round. I hate working with S's. I'm just not so good with them at all. And then we've got M, which is nice, because then we've got the E, which is similar to the M, but rotated. So we could surely do something there. We've got the A, which can be done in different ways. We can have it with a flat top, or we can have it with a pointy top. Alternatively, we could have it even with a round top if we wanted, whichever way works best. I always like to try and reduce the amount of negative space between letters. And then we've got another S and a H. So we're working with 5 different letters here, 2 of them being similar with the M and the E. Let's try and have a think of how we could customize the M and the E. Maybe if the E came out a little bit like that, that's already starting to look like there could be a smash icon incorporated here in between, but then maybe we'd have to distort the M as well. Again, I'm still starting to see like an M shape here which could be worked in, or how could we get an E in even? Well, if we look at an M, we flip it, we get a W. If we put it on its side, kind of get an E. So we could potentially bring in the S, M, keep the same shape there. or we could bring it underneath. So if we did S, upside down M, which could be an E, thicken the letters out a little bit so we know what we're working with. Maybe we could incorporate it into the bottom of the M. So we've obviously got a smash here. If we just widen that a little bit, maybe a bit smashed out to the sides. I need to really have a play around with this. To be honest, I think that I might be best developing this on Adobe Illustrator. So I played around with it, and putting the E below the M, it did actually work. So we've got this. What I've essentially done, obviously it's nowhere near perfect yet. I'm seeing a lot of imperfections with it, but we brought the E below the M like this, and that gave us the opportunity to then incorporate this smash icon in between them both. So I'm going to show you how I did that. Okay, so first things first with this word mark, the first thing that I did was connecting these 2 points with the shape builder tool, making sure the entire middle was completely black. There's a line here we need to get rid of as well, so I'm just going to go to the delete anchor point tool, straighten that up, and now I'm going to bring in the smash, line it up with this, and then I'm going to delete it using the shape builder tool again. This needs to get brought up, but straight away I'm feeling that I think that maybe like this example here, I do like the green that we've gone for. I might have to make it a bit darker, the green, I'm not sure. I think it's a bit too lime, to be honest. I think maybe we need to take it a bit more this way. And then rather than have this colour, I think having it black will be better. So I'm just going to highlight those. If we try and do this the other way around, we're going to see a problem. That looks wrong to me. So we definitely need to do some work to it. We'll figure it out. I'm going to go away and refine this, and I'll show you what we land on. All right, so this is what we've got so far, and I'm liking it. I'm happy with the colour palette that we've gone with. It's got the Vault Green, it's got a grey, it's got a black and a light grey and a white. I think that's all we need. We don't need to complicate it. It looks fresh, energetic, perfect for our target audience. Typography, I've gone for this Prodigy Sans. It's got a bit of flair to it. And then we've got the word mark, which I'm also happy with now. So I'm going to show you a quick way how you can avoid making this one look weird in comparison to this one. And that's by selecting the word mark, go into the appearance panel, and then with the FX button at the bottom, if you can see it, hopefully you can. I'm just going to click add new effect, and then we're going to go to path, offset path. We're going to press down on the arrow key until it goes to 0, and then we're going to hold command and press down on the arrow key, and we're just going to knock it down until it's at about 0.3. What this is going to do, it's just going to reduce the outlines of your logo mark, and there we go. Now they look the same rather than looking different to each other. In terms of the packaging, this is what we've gone for. Again, similar to that mock-up that we showed previously, and then again we've got another version with a box that the clay comes in. Now you aren't looking at an overnight success when it comes to branding, because to be completely honest, this has taken me the last couple of weeks. But what you will find is that by constantly trying to refine your ideas and tying them back to strategy, you will land on an identity that you are happy with. The more work you do prior to the design work, the easier it is to land on a concept that will genuinely convert for the client's audience. Now the next steps from here would be to put it into a brand presentation, present it to the client, get them to approve it, and then create a brand guidelines. Both of the tutorials for those in depth are on my page, which you can go check them out. They're some of my best performing videos, so you'll be able to find them quite easily if you just click the popular button on my page. But we're not finished yet, because at the start of today's video, I promised you that you'd be able to go away with some tips to create studio-like designs for your clients. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did that as a self-taught designer. Okay, so let me show you the secret for getting studio-like designs if you are a fully self-taught designer. Now, I'm going to repeat, this is only for when you are practicing work. I'm not saying go ahead and go out there and copy agencies that you like the look of, but this definitely helps you build up some basic design rules of thumb that you can carry along with to your other design projects. Now what you're going to want to do is go away and find some design studios that you really like the look of. One of my favorite design studios that I get a lot of inspiration from is Koto Studios. Now this is going to be different with whatever your design style is. I tend to attract bolder clients, and I find that the work that Koto does can be quite similar to the work that I aspire to achieve. So we're going to get this Coinbase one for an example here, because for the longest time when I was designing, I was struggling to create work that I was happy with. Something just seemed off and I couldn't quite figure out what it was. And a way that you can start to improve these skills is by simply taking inspiration that you like the look of and just recreating it, seeing what they do, seeing what really makes this a nice piece. Now, I really like this digital asset they've created here, mimicking a website with some of the branding that they've used. So I'm going to start with just copying this font. So we're going to type LeBron James downloads Coinbase app. Now if we increase this, we can start to figure out not necessarily what size the font sizes are, because that doesn't matter, because I could have screenshotted this at any size, but we can figure out what the line heights are in comparison to the font size. So we'll reduce that there, and there we go. We see that 53 in comparison to 47. So if we do the maths there, 53 divided by 47, it's pretty much a 1.1 line height if we were to go away and do that again. So we're going to get our text here, type Jack Watson buys Coinbase. And we know that whatever our font size can be now, as long as it's large, let's say it's 50, if we multiply that by 50 by 1.1, that's a sufficient line height in comparison to the reference that we've made. Okay, so before we wrap up this video, I finally want to give you an easy, repeatable task which will ensure that you get work. Now, you want to try and aim to create one passion project using this exact workflow every 2 weeks. Once you've created this, you want to make a scroll post showcasing the work that you've created, along with 2 videos breaking down exactly why you created it and how you created it. You want to post this across every single platform, make tweaks to the copy to ensure that it's suitable for each platform, and then finally upload your work to a portfolio. In 2025, it is honestly easier than ever before to create a professional portfolio for free. Personally, I'd recommend Framer, who is also the sponsor of today's video, but honestly, they have the best selection of free and paid templates. All you need to do is simply head to Framer, choose a free template, and you can even host it for free with a free Framer domain. If you would like to connect a custom domain, you can do this with the code Jack, and that's going to get you 25% off your first 3 months. If you repeat this process throughout 2025, you will undoubtedly have enough client work to last you 2026. This was honestly a life-changing framework for me, and I'm hoping you see the same success. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested. Now, hopefully you made it all the way to the end of this video. If you did, I have a very special one-time offer for you. You can see here, there's going to be a link in the description for the Ultimate Branding Template Bundle. This is a one-time offer. It's not going to be out for long. And essentially, it is all of the templates that I've shown in this video and more, including a one-to-one Discord server as well, which you'll be able to see at the very end here. However, I'm also going to throw in an extra bonus. And if you type in the discount code Jack, that is going to get you another 20% off your order.